There are four ways by which what has become the untamed grass impunity of the SSS can be checkmated. The first is legislative. The Parliament, the National Assembly can do something about it. The National Security Agencies Act, a relic of military dictatorship. It was one of those decrees, National Security Agencies Decree, has been made part of the Constitution by virtue of Section 318. It has been made an existing law, just like the NYSC Act and the Land Use Act that form part of the Constitution. The National Assembly, if they were serious about reforming the SSS, the State Security Service, they should have started by delisting that act, the State Enabling Act, from the Constitution. And that will go through the normal constitutional amendment process so that it can be placed on the same pedestal with other acts of the National Assembly. But as long as that act is still listed as an existing law under the Constitution, it will suffer the same fate that the Land Use Act is suffering. You know, people are now still agitating that the Land Use Act should be removed from the Constitution. The same thing with the NYSC Act. These are laws that the military left in the Constitution for reasons best known to them, but principally to ensure that they are not easily amended. I'm saying that because if we are truly going to reform the SSS, the law that establishes that agency has to be amended. And you cannot even amend that law except you start by delisting it from the Constitution. Therefore, I am calling for a reform, a legislative reform by the National Assembly. First, delist the act from the Constitution, and secondly, amend the act itself and clearly state limitations on the powers of this agency. Because if you look at Section 3 of the National Security Agencies Act, in fact, Section 2 and 3, the first is detection, prevention and detection of any crime that borders or touches on the internal security of Nigeria. The second is preservation of classified, non-military classified matters. The third is stated in an omnibus generic language to be any other function that may be assigned to it by the National Assembly or the President as it affects the internal security, whatever the President considers to affect internal security. That is why the SSS has become the attack dog of every regime, of every president in power. Because the law that establishes that agency gives the President the power to determine what his function should be. So if the President feels that the National Assembly convening on a particular day is against internal security, he can call them to go and raid the National Assembly like we saw them the other time. If they see that Showore's trial or Showore's attendance in court, if the President wakes up in the morning and feels that Showore going to the Federal High Court is threatening the internal security, he can ask them to invade the sacred chambers of the Court of Law, as they did at the Federal High Court. This is not saying that these acts of impunity are sanctioned by law. I am only saying that the language of the Enabling Act is very elusive and broad and susceptible to abuse. The second way to address the impunity of the SSS is executive, by way of policy. But that cannot happen under a dictator like Buhari. That will take a president who is a Democrat, a president who believes in the Constitution and the supremacy of the Constitution, a president who adheres to the rule of law. A president who believes in the rule of law will be able to subject the SSS and limit the operations to strictly intelligence gathering. Because the SSS is supposed to be a secret police. We shouldn't be seeing them every day. But now, they have basically become another police force, regular police force, which is wrong. The third approach or solution has to be the judiciary, the courts, and that is the most important to me. Unfortunately now, some of our judges are a bit hesitant to insist on compliance with their orders. Some judges even shy away once SSS has interest in the matter. Some judges are not willing to be very forceful in upholding the Constitution. That has to stop. I am also of the view that judges should be very circumspect in remanding suspects in the custody of the SSS. Why? Because even when the courts subsequently give order for their release, as we have seen 1,001 times, they disobey the orders of court. We saw it in Showore's case. We saw it in the case of the orders of Sondibo. We have seen it in so many cases. So many examples. There is hardly any person that is detained in SSS custody that was released as ordered by the courts immediately, including Kufre Kata's case that I did in Akwa Ibom, who was detained by the SSS in flagrant disregard to court order. So this culture of impunity has persisted partly because the judiciary has not been forceful. The judiciary has not been insistent on compliance with their orders and the Constitution. That again has to change. The final solution is citizen-based, which is where Nigeria, the civil society, and the media comes in. We must continue to expose their impunity. We must continue to challenge their arbitrariness. If we don't do that, then we can as well say kiss goodbye to democracy, because that agency has become a threat to the SSS has become a threat. It's a threat to Nigerian democracy. They don't have regard for the Constitution. They don't have regard for the rights of Nigerians. They don't have regard for free press. They operate as if they are above the law. But really, they are not above the law. And that is the message that we as citizens must continuously send to them.